The 28th of February 2005 saw the commencement of Michael Jackson's trial in Santa Maria, California, with the artist accused of 1 count of conspiracy to commit child abduction, false imprisonment and extortion, 4 counts of lewd act upon a child, 1 count of attempting to commit a lewd act upon a child, and 4 counts of administrating an intoxicating agent to assist in the commission of a felony. After 14 weeks, the jury finally reached a unanimous verdict of not guilty on all counts.
He's the child prodigy whose multi-million sales, countless awards and groundbreaking performances have made him a 20th century legend.
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Michael was the greatest.
He's the black icon who became a white superstar, the self-proclaimed king of pop, whose Neverland kingdom has been rocked by scandal.
Please keep an open mind and let me have my day in court. I deserve a fair trial like every other American citizen.
After the Californian verdict, what's next for one of pop's all-time greatest talents? Will there be a new and exciting chapter? Or is this the final page in the rise and fall of Michael Jackson? The seeds of Michael Jackson's talent were sown in Gary, Indiana, where he lived with his 8 brothers and sisters in this 2-bedroom house on Jackson Street. His father, Joseph, was a strict disciplinarian, working in the local steel mills, while his mother, Catherine, stayed at home, raising the kids as devout Jehovah's Witnesses. Early on, she discovered that Mike possessed a unique talent.
When Joe would go to work, we'd just sing folk songs or sing together, but I heard him singing in the bedroom, singing one of the Temptation songs. It was so beautiful.
Determined to utilize that talent, Joe organized a family musical group around his eldest sons. And impressed with what he saw, he threw himself into managing the boys' careers.
Because he was so young and so talented, it immediately created a kind of freak that is at the heart of his story. Where's that voice coming from? Where are those movements coming from? You know, what kind of prodigy is this?
When I see him perform, I see Jackie Wilson, I see James Brown, I see Fred Astaire in him.
He's one of the few rock and roll singers that can really sing.
The group caught the ear of Motown's Berry Gordy, who signed them to the label in 1968. Just 1 year later, they'd got the break they'd been waiting for. Their debut single, I Want You Back, went to #1 in the US charts.
The first time I saw the Jackson 5 on television, I said, wow, it's a boy. Talk about Michael. I mean, because when I first heard the song, I thought he was a little girl. And they're kids. Whoa.
It's pretty amazing. And if you think about, like, the young Michael Jackson, how do young guys like that have so much soul? I was still trying to figure out which shoe went on which foot.
I just was in love with Michael Jackson. I was ready to marry him.
As the 13-year-old frontman, Michael was clearly the star of the group. By 1971, a parallel solo career was launched, and the teenage singer claimed his first US #1, as well as an Oscar nomination for the title song from the movie Ben.
Michael was probably raised in a context feeling that he had to constantly prove himself to his dad, prove himself to the, the bosses of the different record companies. And to have that type of validation from, the top of your field would have made him felt that, I have arrived.
But success couldn't stop him growing into an awkward teenager with problem acne, and constant teasing from his father and brothers began to chip away at the shy and self-conscious adolescent.
I actually saw the brothers sort of ribbing him about his nose, and they used to call him Big Nose.
These people were his world. So in effect, his whole world was saying, you don't look good enough, you don't look the way that you should look. And that would have had serious implications for not only how he saw himself, but how then he goes on to relate to people later on in life.
14-year-old Mike's grueling work schedule meant his chance to socialize with children his own age was taken away. It would have a lasting effect.
I used to be very lonely, painful.
as a child who was such a success and so different, I think, from the rest of his peer group, it had to have been difficult to connect with other people.
I know it's hard for a kid, I know, but I can't believe every moment was bad.
Leaving Motown in 1976, the brothers signed to Epic Records and shortened their name to the Jacksons. Putting teen pop behind them, they hit the dance floor and successfully rode the disco wave.
Don't blame it on the sunshine, don't blame it on the moonlight.
That one in particular had that kind of 70s feel to it. The production on that song was brilliant.
When Michael turned 19, he landed a starring role in the film musical The Wiz alongside Diana Ross. It was here he met producer Quincy Jones for the first time.
During The Wiz, I got to know him pretty well. I don't know how to define what it is, what makes it work, but whatever that thing is, it clicks.
He had a new father figure who'd been around the block around this industry, and finally he meets this guy, Michael Jackson, who he's probably always wanted to work with, and just says, this is what we're going to do, we're going to kill it. He doesn't need his brothers. This guy is a complete star.
In 1979, this unique partnership created a landmark album and instant classic. Off the Wall sold over 7 million copies and established Michael as an adult solo star.
Because he was with his brothers for so long, I think everyone wanted him or expected him to not do so well. He was something that proved that you can go solo from a group and do good.
This is one of those CDs that you can put on, and whatever kind of mood you're in, it lifts you, makes you happy. Just real classic, really, every single song.
And that was the first one that I understood as being, you know, of artistic merit.
For a white world, that was an incredibly black record, and it did definitely, you know, begin the change, if you like.
Off the Wall, Michael Jackson.
With Off the Wall riding high in the charts, a 21-year-old Michael Jackson took the 1980 American Music Awards by storm, picking up 3 trophies, the first of many to come.
This is wonderful.
I think they took something that was quite difficult at the time in disco music and the disco era and managed to make a global selling record mean something, but really popular. It was the emergence of a real superstar as well. It ticked so many boxes at the same time, and I absolutely loved the album. I mean, I used to hold that record like, this is so good.
Few would have expected a follow-up album to match the success of Off the Wall, but the ever-ambitious Michael and Quincy Jones had other ideas. Michael Jackson made history in 1982 when he released Thriller, a record that spawned an unprecedented 7 top 10 singles. It would become the best-selling album ever.
I've always wanted to see an artist like Michael attain that stature too, because it's never happened to a black artist before.
Thriller was the most expensive video of its time, with production costs totaling $1 million. The unveiling of Thriller on MTV was a global event like no other.
I knew if we did something with substance and content that people would watch, and it had great entertainment value, and if it held you, I knew we'd be okay.
For me, like, Thriller is the quintessential music video. In my entire career, in my mind, I've been chasing Thriller.
What Michael Jackson represented as a black superstar, the first real global black superstar, you know, changed everything about this industry. Getting his videos played on MTV, setting a trend for the way videos are made, giving hope to so many aspiring musicians, and real hope. Just demonstrating you can be endorsed, you can be loved by people of all colour. He created this thing with Quincy Jones, and the world bought it.
Michael Jackson!
Michael Jackson!
At the following year's American Music Awards, viewers watched history unfold as he took home 7 awards, a record yet to be broken.
I'm so deeply touched and deeply honored to receive this wonderful award.
That kind of cemented Michael Jackson as an icon in pop culture, a fashion icon, a music icon, and just a legend.
Thank you very much.
What Michael took home was nothing compared to what he brought with him. His date, 80s pin-up Brooke Shields, and US TV star 12-year-old Emmanuel Lewis.
He had Brooke Shields, the most desirable white woman on the planet at the time, on his arm. Made total sense. I thought, hey, Eureka! Someone's match made them. At last, let's see if he's the real deal, because it's Brooke, baby. You know, everyone wants Brooke. And he had Emmanuel Lewis in his hand.
An important chemistry in writing song is inspiration, and I'm holding one of my inspirations is Emmanuel Lewis.
We had so many different similar situations. Him growing up, you know, in the spotlight, myself, those were real for us. He's like another brother to me, you know, then and now.
It makes you wonder if he saw a bit of himself in what this young child star was going through. Was he inspirational because somewhere in that he had that idyllic family setting that Michael dreamt of but was never really able to verbalize?
With the world at his feet, Michael's double date was the first of many eccentric stunts to amuse and confuse. But as the 80s faded, his preference for the company of children was to have painful consequences and play a major role in the fall of Michael Jackson. By the time Thriller was honored with 9 Grammys in 1984, Michael Jackson had achieved more than he could ever have dreamed of.
He's not only an amazing songwriter, he's just an amazing performer, and when he's on stage, it's like, how can you top that, man? He's just great.
But there were two sides to Michael, the veteran performer and the uncomfortable 26-year-old. Indifferent with girls, intrigued by boys, and so insecure of his self-image that the early 80s saw him changing his face.
He had a song called Man in the Mirror, Change, and that's what he tried to do. He tried to change. He tried to change what he saw in the mirror, because he obviously didn't like himself, even though he was a big star.
You're saying you've only ever had one piece of surgery on your nose?
2.
You've had 2?
As I can remember.
As his face showed obvious signs of cosmetic surgery, Michael's skin also got lighter in tone. He claimed to have vitiligo, a rare disease that turned him from black to white.
They said I was putting on cream to make myself lighter. That's not true.
I tried to talk to him a couple of times. You don't need to change your color. No one knows what color you are. No one cares. You're Michael Jackson. You're a pop icon. You don't have to do this. He wouldn't respond. He would just turn his head. He just looked the other way. He wouldn't pay any attention.
Despite his achievements, Michael was a confused 26-year-old. After a lifetime of protection from the outside world and with little opportunity for socializing with children his own age, Michael was a boy in a bubble.
I remember him telling me, listen, I've been all around the world, but as a child, I never saw any of these places. Chicago looked the same as Dallas to me. I think the effect of being on the road that way created a very lonely person.
The emotional development of this former teen star was never addressed. The priority was to keep delivering the hits. The albums Bad in 1987 and Dangerous in 1991 each sold almost 30 million copies, confirming Michael's global pop dominance. But while his music made him a star, it was his private lifestyle making the headlines. He used his fortune to buy the Californian ranch he called Neverland, filling it with all the playmates he was denied as a child. Casting himself as Peter Pan, Michael's preferred companion seemed a logical extension.
I think clearly Michael felt a connection with children. He probably felt that connection because children didn't judge him, because the children didn't want anything from him in the way that adults probably did all his life.
I haven't been betrayed or deceived by children. Adults have let me down. Adults have let the world down.
Michael's interest in children was plain for all to see, and few questioned the motives of a man who was worshipped by so many.
He'd have a lot of parties, disadvantaged kids and boys, and that's all you would see is just like little kids. Primarily, little boys.
I think kids are very special. Their eyes, their face, their expressions, their characters.
Michael Jackson had been seen in public with boys for many years, but in 1993, a shocking allegation raised doubts about his motives.
It was a nightmare, a horrifying nightmare.
An investigation was launched into allegations that Michael had sexually molested a 13-year-old boy, Geordie Chandler.
There have been many disgusting statements made recently concerning allegations of improper conduct on my part. These statements about me are totally false.
You wanted to believe what he said, but because of the animals that, you know, were shown at Neverland and him hanging out with little kids all the time, it just didn't really work.
Apart from the fanatical Michael Jackson fans that wouldn't care whatever he did, I think it was a terrible time.
The case was settled out of court for a reported $18 million.
We got together again with my advisors, and they advised me, it was hands down a unanimous decision, resolve the case.
Shortly after the settlement, news of Michael's marriage to Elvis Presley's daughter, Lisa Marie, was met with cynicism and disbelief.
I'm not going to marry somebody for any reason other than the fact that I fall in love with them, period.
I think cynics might say, you know, it might have been a case of damage limitation, that right after the Geordie case, he marries a very high-profile, beautiful woman. But having said that, you don't know.
Nobody thought this would last.
Their relationship didn't last long. After only 20 months, the couple divorced.
I just figured, nah, I ain't going to last anymore. But it was fun while it lasted, right?
In 1996, Michael married again, this time to his dermatologist assistant, Debbie Rowe. Before their 1999 divorce, she gave birth to 2 children.
I think Debbie Rowe was just strange for everyone, because, again, he went from I think what would have been considered a classically beautiful woman to a woman that clearly he was out to impregnate, to have his children. That's what it felt like.
Reeling from a decade of negative headlines, in 2001, Michael hoped to put that all behind him with the release of his Invincible CD. Reviews were favourable, but for a superstar of Jackson's stature, the album sales were a huge letdown.
He made a noose for himself by being the king of pop, which meant that when you do songs like Black or White and pop songs, and then you try and go back to being soulful, you're going to alienate your audience, and that's basically what he did. He was too soulful.
Michael placed the blame on Sony Records for allegedly engaging in a racial conspiracy against him.
The record companies really, really do conspire against their artists. They steal, they cheat, they do whatever they can, especially the black artists.
And I think he must have taken that pretty badly, because he thought he was making an album that was of the time, but no. His fans wanted a Michael Jackson global pop record, and he couldn't deliver it.
Jackson's ability to sell records may have stalled, but his ability to shock the public was about to be reconfirmed. From a Berlin hotel balcony in 2002, Michael chose a unique way of introducing his third child, the product of an unknown surrogate mother. The world's response was immediate and scathing.
I was quite shocked purely because it obviously showed he was so out of touch with reality.
Despite apologising for his mistake, many wondered if he'd drifted too far into Neverland.
We were waiting for thousands of fans down below, and they were chanting they wanted to see my child. So I was kind enough to let them see.
Jacko now is being remembered, you know, as a circus freak, isn't he? Really, just a weirdo, and you know that's taken away. You know, you're taken away from the great music he made. That's a very, very uncomfortable moment.
So far, the new century had not treated Michael too favourably, but the worst was still to come. On January 16, 2005, Michael Jackson appeared in court to plead not guilty to new charges of sexual abuse.
The felony complaint involves 9 counts in violation of the California Penal Code, commonly known as child molestation.
The investigation began after Michael appeared in a 2003 documentary by British journalist Martin Bashir.
I watched the Martin Bashir documentary, like my bottom lip was down there. My eyes were up there. I was totally amazed.
Why can't you share your bed? Look, the most loving thing to do is to share your bed with someone.
The scene with him, with the little boy next to him, was so disturbing for me.
You're thinking sexual. They make that sexual. It's not sexual. We're going to sleep.
Gavin Arvizo, the boy who featured in Bashir's documentary, stunned fans when he claimed he too had been molested by the singer. For many, the new allegations, so similar to the original 1993 controversy, damaged the star's image beyond repair.
They ruined an American hero, that's for sure. And some would say he ruined himself by his own behaviour.
Yet Michael is not without his supporters.
He is innocent. My brother is innocent.
If I had seen anything, Believe me, his ass would have been hanging from a tree.
Michael loves kids. Big deal. Michael, in my opinion, also is a man-child. And I will show you the child in that person.
Michael denied all charges against him, including giving alcohol to a minor.
The information is disgusting and false. Years ago, I allowed this family into my home because they told me their son was ill with cancer and needed my help. Please keep an open mind and let me have my day in court.
You've got everything mixed up. You've got race, you've got sex, you've got celebrity, you've got, media, you've got children.
The defence team called upon stars such as Macaulay Culkin, Chris Tucker and Jay Leno to testify.
Some major superstar is going to risk their name by coming up to defend him. He must be happy about that.
After weeks of hearing evidence, the court finally delivered its verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty of a lewd act upon a minor child.
We're disappointed in the verdict, but I've never quarreled with the jury's verdict, and I'm not going to start today.
Nothing in Michael Jackson's life has been as simple as black and white. The question is, will our affections for the man and his music remain unaffected by the revelations from that Californian courtroom? Or will the Peter Pan of pop be forced to grow up?
I think the unfortunate thing is that this man probably feels that he can't relate to adults, and that's what no one's addressing. Not why does he like kids so much, is what on earth is he so afraid of when it comes to adult relationships.
It's all about either finishing off Michael Jackson as an icon in a traditional sense, but that simply creates another kind of icon, the doomed, tragic story of Michael Jackson with an Elvis Presley ending that either will be suicide or overdose or whatever it will be. Whichever one it is, it's kind of odd